Match 25 of the Big Bash, the Perth Scorchers against the Melbourne Renegades. Let's build our fantasy team on my 11 Circle Fantasy Pick on ESPNcricinfo. I'm Ronak Kapoor and my colleague Andrew Mcglashan is all set to join me. Right, let's go to our pro tip for this one. I wonder what Andrew is going to make of this. It says, although it is at the Perth Stadium, which is the home ground of the Perth Scorchers, the Scorchers have actually won just 40% of their games here, whereas in their previous home ground of the WACA, they had a much better record of winning 70% of the games just about. So the Scorchers bowlers have especially struggled at the Perth Stadium. So try to avoid picking too many bowlers from the Scorchers side. Now that's quite intriguing, Nasher, given the opposition is the Melbourne Renegades, which can't seem to buy a win. What do you make of that pro tip?
It is. I mean, I suppose you could be quite harsh and say it may not matter which bowlers they pick the way the Renegades are going at the moment. But on a slightly serious point, yeah, they certainly made the WACA a fortress while that was their home ground. It hasn't been quite as easy for them at Perth Stadium. One thing I will just say, though, this is the first game of cricket, sort of proper, sort of high-level cricket in Western Australia all season because of COVID, so quite a few unknowns about how things will play out. So I wouldn't read too much into historical conditions on this one. Perhaps go with your gut feeling a bit more when picking the team this time.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? First bit of proper cricket you think at the Perth Stadium. So look at players in form. Let's see how many we've picked. Let's go to our team. For that, a quick reminder on the My 11 Circle Fantasy app, 100 credits for every user to build their fantasy team. 4 categories of players to choose from: batsmen, bowlers, wicketkeepers, and all-rounders. Every player's individual credit value is listed on the app. You can pick a maximum of 7 players from one team in any given contest, and we'll throw in 4 substitute options for you towards the end of this video as well. Our captain choice for this one's going to be Liam Livingstone. Now, he is the leading run scorer for the Perth Scorchers in last year's Big Bash, and he scored 425 runs, which included an astonishing 27 sixes in 14 games, the second highest in the tournament. Loves batting at the Perth Stadium, scores of 78 and 79 in very good time in his last 2 outings here. So we're going for Liam Livingstone as captain. Shaun Marsh is going to be our recommended vice captain. He's a veteran in the Big Bash now, and he spent 8 successful seasons with the Scorchers. He'll be up against them in this match. He scored 233 runs in 6 games this season, last 2 scores being 67 and 87. Shaun Marsh also has some pretty good numbers at this venue. He's managed 181 runs at a strike rate of just under 160 in 4 innings. So our captain choice is Liam Livingstone, vice captain Shaun Marsh. They get you double and 1.5 times the points respectively, so pick them very carefully. In our top picks, Jason Roy features. He showed glimpses of what he's capable of in the 2 knocks that he's played, a quick fire 21 and then a 49 of 32. We know that if he goes big, Jason Roy can get you heaps of points. And he came to this Big Bash in phenomenal hitting form with 350 plus scores in 5 T20 Blast games. Mitchell Marsh is there as well. You think almost every time the Scorchers play, you'll find room for Mitchell Marsh. He's going to join his brother in our top recommendations, and we know that he can get you points with bat, with ball. He's been in good batting form, scores of 52 and 38, and he's not bowled in the initial few games, but looks like he's found his fitness again, and he nicked a nice little 2 for 14 of his 4 overs last time out. Mohammad Nabi as well, the number 1 ranked T20I all-round in the world. He started the season somewhat indifferently, but he's come back really well. Important little cameo with the bat last game against Sydney Thunder, and he's picked up a couple of wickets in the match against the Sixers. So his all-round capabilities always tempt us to put him in our top picks. Rounding that up, Liam Livingstone is captain, Shaun Marsh is vice-captain, Jason Roy, Mitchell Marsh, and Mohammad Nabi. That round up our top picks. Thoughts on those, Nasha?
It's hard to argue against any of those. The only things I might consider would be on the very small sample size of games we've seen from them so far. Jason Roy does look in good nick. You might want to ponder where you give him either the captaincy or the vice captaincy. And I might argue the same with Mitch Marsh as well. The point you made about him scoring points with both facets of the game makes him a very valuable cricketer, and he does seem to be hitting his stride nicely with the ball now that he's fit again. So they are obviously in our top picks anyway. Maybe you would want to consider the points bonus on offer if they were either your captain or vice captain.
All right, yep. Something to consider if you want to just play around with that captain or vice captain choice in your team. Let's go to the rest of our side. Our differential picks include Kane Richardson, the Melbourne Renegades' top wicket taker this season. He's gone wicketless in the rain curtail game against Sydney Thunder, but he's picked up 9 wickets in 6 games so far, 8 wickets in 3 games at Perth Stadium, with a pretty good average of just under 6 and an economy of just over 4. Peter Hadzoglou is there, the tall leg spinner, someone who's expected to get some extra bounce on this Perth surface. My trouble batsman, he's come into the side and impressed immediately in what is his debut BBL campaign. And he's picked up 7 wickets in the 5 innings in which he's bowled. Kane Richardson and Peter Hadzoglou. In our differential picks, our full team sees Josh Inglis as our recommended keeper option from the Perth Scorchers. There's Jason Roy, Aaron Finch, Shaun Marsh, Riley Russo, and Liam Livingstone. Marsh and Livingstone, of course, are recommended vice-captain and captain. Mitchell Marsh is there, who Nasher can suggest as someone who could be your captain too. Mohammad Nabi, Peter Hadzoglou, Kane Richardson, and Andrew Ty wrap up our recommended 11. Substitutes bench, Jai Richardson, Ashton Turner, Sam Harper, and Imad Wasim. Now, any of those players that you'd be tempted to play in your 11? Any other thoughts, Nasher?
I'd be tempted just on the few games so far this season. Jai Richardson looks to be hitting his stride nicely with the ball. He's up there amongst the leading wicket takers. So you might want to consider the Richardson double in your team, Kane from the Renegades and Jai Richardson from the Perth Scorchers. He'll also be playing on his home patch as well, and he looks to be hitting his stride nicely. And then you've got Imad Wasim, again, a bit like the Mitchell Marsh argument. He can score you points in both facets of the game. He's bowled quite nicely so far this season, so you may want to consider him. But out of those, Jai Richardson would be the one who I'd probably want to try and get into my first 11 if I could.
All right. Thanks very much to Andrew Mcglashan, Deputy Editor of ESPNcricinfo, and in Australia watching the Big Bash very closely. Thanks a lot for your time and your thoughts, Nasher. Plenty more coming from you. Make sure you check in with the latest team news after the toss before confirming your fantasy sides, and we'll be back with plenty more expert opinion, analysis, data to help you build your fantasy teams on my 11 Circle Fantasy Pick on ESPNcricinfo.